The wreck of the Zanzibar. December 9th. The wreck of the Zanzibar. I don't know where to begin. Granny May is still asleep. She wakes from time to time and looks up at me fondly. I've told her again and again what's happened today. She just smiles and pats my hand. I hope she understands, but I'm not sure she does. I'm not sure I do. Mother sent me out early, as usual, to fetch back some limpets or whatever I could find. It was too rough again to fish from the rocks. The storm was worse than ever. There must have been a dozen of us out doing the same thing on Great Porth when someone saw the sail. The rain was coming in hail squalls, driving into my face so hard that I could scarcely open my eyes. One sail became four, white against the black storm clouds. The ship was beating her way past Seal Rock towards the tearing ledges, making no headway in the teeth of a gale. We all knew what was going to happen. We'd seen it before. A ship about to founder staggers before she falls. A huge wave broke over her stern, and she did not come upright again. She lay on her side and wallowed in the waves. The cry went up from all around, "Wreck! Wreck!" I raced home and met Father and the chief coming up the track at a run. "Is it true?" cried Father. "Have we got a wreck?" When we reached the boathouse, they were already hauling the gig down into the surf. Time and time again the crew leapt in, and we pushed them out up to our waists in the icy sea, and time and again they were driven back by the waves. In the end she was caught broadside on, capsized, and everyone was upturned into the sea. After that, everyone wanted to give up. Everyone except the chief. "Rushy Bay!" he cried. "Nothing else for it. We'll be out of the wind. Let's launch her there." But no one would hear of it until the schoolteacher came running along the beach towards us breathless. "There's men in the sea," she said. "I saw them from Sampson Hill. The ship's gone on the rocks." "You heard her?" cried the chief. "Well, what are we waiting for?" They lashed the oars across, and at a word from the chief lifted the gig up onto their shoulders. Mother was beside me now, taking my hand in hers, silent with anxiety. I stood and watched, yearning, aching to be carrying the gig with the chief, with Father, with old man Jenkins and the others. They staggered up the beach and set off across the green towards Rushy Bay, all of us running alongside. When we reached the track up Sampson Hill, everyone made off up the hill to watch from the top. Everyone but me. I stayed with the crew. Mother tried to hold on to me, but I broke free. Father bellowed at me, but I paid him no heed, and I knew he was too busy to make me. Over the dunes they went, cursing and groaning under the weight of the gig, and I went with them. And that was where Father went down with a cry, clutching at his ankle and rolling over in agony. When he tried to stand, he could not. I went to help him. He looked up and shook his head. "You take it!" the chief was shouting, and he was shouting at me. "You, Laura, you!" He took me by the shoulders and shook me. "Come on!" So I took up Father's oar and my share of the weight on my shoulder, and leaving Father behind on the dunes, we ran the gig down the beach and into the sea. We unlashed our oars, leapt in, and at once we were pulling hard for Sampson. The waves hurled us up and down so violently that I thought the gig would break her back. I just rowed, and as I rowed I suddenly realised where I was and what I was doing. I was in the gig. I was rowing out to a wreck. I was doing what I'd always most wanted to do all my life. At last, at last, at last. No one spoke except the chief. He stood in the prow, bellowing at us. "Row, you beggars, row! Row like hell! There's folk in the water out there! Row your hearts out! Row, blast your eyes, row!" And I rowed like I had never rowed before, fixing my eyes on the blade, pulling long and hard through the water, reaching far forward, bracing my feet, and digging the oar again into the sea. The sea surged and churned around the gig. I became my oar, and my oar became me. I was too busy to feel any fear, too cold to feel any pain. The gig grounded suddenly. I'd not expected it so soon. We were on Samson already. We hung over our oars like wet rags, drained of all strength. But the chief hadn't finished with us yet. "Out!" he cried, and he leapt over the side. "We'll carry her across Samson and launch her again on the other side. It's the only way we'll reach them. Come on, you beggars! Be time to rest when it's done." So we tumbled over the side, lashed the oars again, and lifted. The neck of Samson is just 100 yards or so across, but in the teeth of that gale it felt like a mile. More than once I stumbled and fell to my knees, but always there were strong hands grasping me and hauling me to my feet. "I can see them," cried the chief. "Over on White Island, I can see them." The chief was everywhere, lifting with us, bellowing behind us, clearing the way ahead of us. We reached the beach on the far side of Samson at last, and ran the gig down over the pebbles until the sea took the weight of her from us. We unlashed the oars, pushed her out, and piled in. "Pull!" he cried. "Pull for your children! Pull for your wives!" I have no children. I have no wife, but I pulled all the same. I pulled for Granny May, for Mother, for Father, and for Billy. Especially for Billy. It was no great distance across the narrow channel, but the seas were seething. A witch's brew of wind and tide and current took us and tossed us about at will. Under us the gig groaned and cried, but she held together. A thunderous wave reared up above us, a great green wall of water, and I thought we must go over. "Steady, steady," came the chief's voice, and even the wave seemed to obey him. I felt the boat rise with the wave, surge forward, and then we were surfing in towards the beach, where we were dumped high and safe on the shingle of White Island. I climbed out and looked about me. I saw men staggering towards us, and one of them was running ahead of the others. "Laura!" he cried. I knew the voice, and then I knew him. "Billy?" I said, taking his face in my hands to be sure, to be quite sure. "Is it you, Billy? Is it you?" "Thank God," he whispered. I have to pinch myself still to believe it as I write it. Billy is back. Billy is safe. Billy is home. We hugged out there on White Island. We cried. We laughed. On the way back to Briar, with the wind and the waves behind us, with new strength in our arms, the gig flew over the sea. We had reached every man on board, and Billy had come home. I could have rowed that gig single-handed. They had hot baths ready all over the island. Billy sat there, laughing in the tub in the kitchen, with all of us around him, and shivered the cold out of him. He was bigger, stronger, different somehow, but still Billy. We had hot soup, limpets again, but we didn't care, not now. I've never seen anyone as hungry. I've never seen Mother glowing so, nor Father so motherly. Everyone's proud of me. I'm proud of me. Billy's too tired to talk much. He says his ship was called the Zanzibar. He was bound for New York from France. He was suddenly tired, and Mother took him up to bed. He'll tell us more tomorrow. I've just told Granny May again that Billy's back home, but all she says is, "The turtle, the turtle." She's asleep again now. I'm so tired, and I'm so happy.